Hello, and welcome to the Exponential Growth Podcast, powered by Analyst Investors. I'm your host, David Olivencia, co-founder of Analyst Investors, and a passionate advocate for leveraging innovation and technology to drive success. Let's get started. This is Exponential Growth. I also want to give gratitude to Salvi Media. They're the founding sponsor of the podcast. They're a premier executive content agency dedicated to crafting exceptional content and strategies that elevate companies' brands and their executives. They're creators of the Emmy Award-winning CEO series. I think many of you have seen that. We've also featured one of my portfolio companies, Analyst Investors and Hallow, on their CEO series. And they've had in-depth interviews with CEOs talking about their personal journeys and business experience. The CEO series can be found on Cheddar, Entrepreneur Magazine, Reach TV, and really want to thank Salvi Media for their support of the podcast. You can also follow them on social media, as well as they have a podcast studio in Chicago. Join them as well. So again, thank you, Salvi Media, for making this podcast possible. And I wanted to welcome you again to the Exponential Growth Podcast. And today's a little bit different and special. I've completed 2 seasons of the Exponential Growth Podcast. I think there's a statistic out there that 80% of people who, or maybe even more than that, who start the podcast, they don't even get beyond 6 episodes, right? And I think I've completed almost 30 or so, and wanted to take some time and just maybe reflect on each of these episodes and give everybody a perspective on kind of why I brought them on, why do they pertain to exponential growth, and a little bit of what we're planning on for the next couple seasons that we're going to do. And first of all, though, I wanted to give a shout out to Salvi Media, because when I started this, I looked for a partner and a sponsor to really help us fuel this, and had a lot of the same belief around exponential growth, belief around media and what we're doing. And for those who don't know about Salvi Media, from day one, they believed in the vision of the show, and their support has helped turn that vision into reality. For those who don't know, Salvi Media is a premier business executive content agency that elevates personal and company brands. From concept to content distribution, their work turns brand narratives into powerful visual experiences. Whether it's through a leadership series and CEO series that they have, internal communications, documentary style campaigns, or founder spotlights. They're also the Emmy Award-winning team behind the CEO series, a compelling video series that features top CEOs sharing personal stories and insights on leadership and business. You can check out their podcast episodes on Cheddar, Entrepreneur, Reach TV, and their YouTube. If you're looking to elevate your brand through world-class storytelling, I can't recommend them enough. Thank you. Thank you, Salvi Media, for helping bring exponential growth to life. So thank you again, Salvi Media, and truly check them out. Check them out. So wanted to just talk about the different people I've had on the podcast, and give you a little bit more insights to them, my relationship with them, and a little bit of what was shared. So my very first podcast was with Marcelo DeSantis, and Marcelo I've known for 20 years, but I think the first 10 years was virtual, and he was traveling. He's worked in Singapore, Italy, Europe, other places around Europe, Latin America, and Chicago, back and forth. And I was traveling and doing some work, so we never really got to meet in person, but he's had chief information officer roles at Mondelez, Pirelli Tire. He was a chief technology officer at ThoughtWorks, large global public company. So he's had a really distinguished career. But if you follow Marcelo on social media, which I encourage you to do if you don't, is really strong in AI, and really, I think, a thought leader there, just around AI, culture, technology. And so that's a lot of what we chopped it up on. And he's an author of a book called Figure Eight, how do you lead in these times of exponential growth? So he's really put that together. And I think that's really the main areas that we touched on and during our conversation together. Also, he's an Everest. He hikes Everest and has done that. So really interesting. So then the second podcast that we released was with Max Rivera. Max Rivera, an executive at Snap. He's been there a long time. I think he put something out on social media of his next kind of career move. So you can check that out and stay attuned there. But Max, we chatted a lot about what's going on with augmented reality, virtual reality, augmented reality, a little bit about AI as well, but a lot that is a really disruptive technology that's really enabling a lot of different businesses and industries to look at things and do things in a different way. So that was with Max. Then the next guest we had on was Juan Carlos Gutierrez. He's senior executive at AWS in Latin America and runs the architecture practice for them. And Juan's got diverse background, whether it was at Oracle, one of the world's leading software and technology companies, obviously AWS, doing some consulting. And so Juan has a really strong technology and leadership background, but also has done also global background, a lot of it in Latin America, but also other parts around the globe. So a lot of what we chatted on was, obviously some AI and what AWS is doing there, but we also dug into the culture of AWS and really what are the things you need to put in place with your culture in your company to make you ready for exponential growth. So really interesting conversation with Juan Carlos Gutierrez. Then the next one we had was with Guillermo Diaz, and Guillermo has an amazing background. Former military, Navy, and then ends up doing some work in Silicon Valley. Then joins Cisco Systems, one of the world's leading technology companies, and then rises up through the ranks to become a chief information officer at Cisco. And he's done some early stage investing in startups. He's now a CEO of a startup called Conectado. He serves on two boards. One Jack in the Box, kind of restaurant company or fast food restaurant company, and then the Blue Shield of California, right? So diverse industries, diverse background, and we just really, talked about what's going on with AI and technology and enabling and education, and a little bit on his journey, right, of going all the way from Pueblo, Colorado, to being a very high-ranking leader in Silicon Valley, and just what's needed for workforce transformation. So really great leader, and it was just a great session with Guillermo. The next one was with Claudio Robertson, and he's at JP Morgan Private Bank, and this was a lot of like exponential growth is about what are the trends out there? How do you invest? Knowing those trends, how do you best invest? And then for those who are looking to lead, how do you lead in an environment of exponential growth? So we focused a lot in on investing and what does that mean and wealth creation. And he shared a perspective from JP Morgan and shared some, we had conversations on ultra and high net worth and what does that mean and how are the ultra high net worth thinking about investing in these times of exponential growth, and shared some perspectives there. So that was a great conversation with Claudio Robertson. Then we did, then I had Diego Ocampo come on, and we chatted about a lot of things. And Diego has an amazing background at Amazon, Verizon, and other companies with innovations around supply chain, drones, right? So at Amazon, there was the project where they had drone deliveries and we're piloting that. And so we talked about those technologies. We also talked about he has a new exciting role in the purchasing area and how technology is dramatically innovating and changing that. So that was a great conversation with Diego Ocampo. And it really also touched on advanced robotics and what's going on there. Then I had the conversation with Will Salvi of Salvi Media. They're a sponsor of the podcast. And it was really around this whole area of AI and content and how AI is just dramatically shaping the way content is created. And that's everything from, video to audio to
to social media content, right? And even, content for, company to business, content. So really sat down with them and also talked about uh, about Salvi itself and how they're growing and how they're transforming. So it was a great conversation with Will. Um, the next one was with Adela Cepeda, and Adela is I've known almost 15 years. She's a co-founder of Angeles Investors with me and several others, but she's also general partner with me on our Angeles Ventures fund. And Adela Cepeda has an amazing background because she's really a global financial services leader. She worked at Smith Barney for a while. She had her own, bond business that she ran. She had the state of New York as a client, the state of Illinois as a client. She's on the board of BMO Financial, one of the fifth largest bank in the Americas. She's also on the board of three mutual fund companies that have over 300 billion in assets underneath them. So definitely has that perspective. And then Adela talked about her background as an immigrant, and then going to Harvard, going to Booth, starting her firm, growing, getting into angel investing, early stage investing, but also having this kind of just deep Wall Street and financial services background. So I think it was a great conversation, and was an honor to have Adela on. Then we had Ray Calmer on, and Ray is the CEO of Enclu. They're one of the leaders in augmented reality experiences, and they also have some physical locations that do that, rapidly expanding. And Ray was really talking about just the power of augmented reality, how it's used, and maybe more around the entertainment area and what's happening there. Just a rapidly growing uh, area. Then the next episode we cut it up with William Bellis, and William is the CIO of HEICO, Chief Information Officer at HEICO, and they're in the space industry. But what William and we talked about just all these different technologies that are happening and growing exponentially. William shared his background at Accenture, various consulting firms. He was a chief information officer of a large payments company. So he's all these deep perspectives on a lot of different technologies that he shared. We also one of the interesting things is we also talked about William's uh, background in doing genealogy and tracing his family back. I think it was all the way to like the 1300s. I got to maybe listen to it again. But him having to go to Spain and go into churches and dig all the way back, and how he it's kind of a hobby of his the genealogy. So it was really cool hearing from William. Somebody I've known a long time. Actually, he stood up in my wedding, so I've known William a very long time as well. Then we had Corina Sanchez come on, and for those who are in Chicago, she has some amazing restaurants there, the Treehouse, Moe's Cantina, and several others that you should check out. But we talked about everything from the restaurant business. So she also has a solar business. So we talked about a bit about energy, what's going on with solar, and she shared her perspectives there. And we did that one live from Salvi Studios in Chicago. Corina shared her journey all the way, lawyer into the restaurant business, now into the solar energy business and manufacturing, right? So very diverse career, sharing her perspectives there. Our next guest on the podcast was Stacy Latoyson. She's the founder of Dream Big Ventures and the host of the Her Money Moves podcast. So we talked a little bit about her journey. She's been in the energy space, and she's risen the ranks at a very large energy company. And she talked about her passion about the community, about investing, about finances, and what she's doing with the Her Money Moves podcast, which I think is amazing. I love it, and I love what she's doing there. Additionally, she serves on the board of Angeles Investors, so we talked about that a little bit as well. Then we had a bonus edition with Francisco Cornejo, who's the founder of Familify, which underneath Familify is a storybook app as well as a Theo app. And we talked about just about this whole area of mental health and wellness and how that's growing, and kids and parents and parenting and apps. But this app space, this mental health and or app space is exploding, and he's at the forefront of it. So sharing his perspectives there, and there's some big news coming from them very soon. So keep your eye out for Famlify and Theo. Then we talked about supply chains. We had on the podcast Luis Solana, who is a expert in supply chains and has worked at companies like Bridgestone and others, major Fortune 500 companies. And so we talked about all the disruption and change that are going on in the supply chain, and how technology is just creating all kinds of disruption there, and growth opportunities. And he shared some frameworks, models, and how he's looking at that, and some things that are next for him as it relates to venture and supply chains. Then we had an area that I think is really cool, call it brain tech and brain health. We had Dr. Ramses Alcalde on of Neurable, and he talked about all the, if you think about when you get a blood draw, and if you can get like lots of, dozens of biomarkers that they can see in your blood. But you think about the brain, which is like probably almost more important than what your heart. And there's minimal data on that. And with Neurable, you're seeing more and more that they can give you like 30 type of biomarkers for your brain, for brain activity, and what your brain is saying. So that we spent a lot of time there, and understanding his background. So keep an eye on Neurable. Then we had another bonus edition with Ruben Garcia, the CEO of Certiverse, and they're disrupting this whole testing and certification area. They raised a Series A. We had them on and highlighted that. And, very few companies take that exponential growth and go all the way to Series A. He's done that. Then the next episode was with Jesus Mantas. And Jesus is a longtime IBM executive, was a senior executive in their global consulting business, and is recently retired. And we talked about all the different, he speaks globally on different technologies, and as well as he's on the board of, several a biotech company and another tech company. And so we chatted on a bit about board service, about what he's seeing in this health space and what's going on there. We talked about AI, and because he has his view from, working at IBM, global technology leader, and sharing those perspectives there. Then we had Fernando Rosario, somebody I started my career with and he's getting ready. He worked at Accenture, a lot of fintech background, and as a coach to many senior executives in the IT industry. And Francisco shared his perspectives on amplifiers and what it takes, to amplify people and amplify your career, and also about AI and what's going on in the fintech area and how that's exploding. And then, just everything that's going in healthcare, right? Just such a large part of our economy. We had Dr. Alejandro Badia come on and really just sound the alarm, and really talk about all, the money, some of the inefficiencies that are going on there, and what are some exponential growth trends in health. So it was great to have him on from Miami. And then the last to wrap up the season, we had Greg Hedges come on. And with Greg, was one of the founding members at Protiviti, which is a multi-billion-dollar services firm. He's founded a bunch of networks, one of them being the Notre Dame Chicago Alumni Club, Business Alumni Club. And now he's also the president of the National Association of Corporate Directors. He's a adjunct professor at Notre Dame as well. So he's got a very strong view on what's happening in quantum computing, AI, and others. But we really dug deep into quantum and what the heck it is. Why is it important? Why should you care? And really had a good conversation with Greg. And so those were the first two seasons. As I mentioned, most podcasters don't get beyond the first 5 or 6, and they stop and they give up. We've hit about 20 or so. And, as we look at the next couple seasons coming up, looking to do more of these. We're going to look across all the different dimensions of podcasting to kind of up the game. And so you'll hopefully see a little bit more of that in the next couple seasons. And if you're listening, if you have a guest that you'd like to recommend that I bring on, please, just send me a name, send me their name, email me, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Lastly, I would say just thank you. Thank you for taking the time and listening to these. I am interested in your thoughts and feedback on how I can improve. And stay tuned. More great episodes are coming.